Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today, I am joined by Twitter aficionado. You might know him as Noir Enigma, and I am so happy to have him on the podcast today. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well, and it's still strange to consider that anyone knows me at all for anything ever.
You know, I'm looking at your as you know, I pulled up your Twitter. I'm like, yeah, you know, you got a respectable amount of people checking your thing out. Like you got followers there.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of time before I mess that up somehow.
But I know that I stumbled across. I don't even know how I stumbled across you, but there was like something, and it's always like, okay, I always do my background check now before I click on that follow button. It's let me take a look and see what people have posted for like the past 6 months.
Nothing problematic, just dumb. You know, and if I had an autobiography, that would be the title.
That would be a great title right there. But I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. I know that we've been going back and forth a little bit just with scheduling and stuff popping up, and I feel now I have like more opportunity of getting even more people on the podcast because they don't have anywhere to go.
I mean, it's kind of hard to schedule a podcast in the middle of the apocalypse, but here we are. We thought it was going to be zombies and sawed-off shotguns. It's just keeping 6 feet apart from each other and toilet paper.
Right, and for me, it's a lot of Animal Crossing.
Oh, see, I mean, I should have got a Switch, and that's going to be my biggest regret when the world ends.
We are here to talk fandom, a lot of the stuff that you're into.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, our initial connection was tabletop role playing, so we're going to have that be the anchor of this podcast. But you have a number of fandoms that have never been talked about on the podcast before, and I'm excited to dive into them because, at least with one of them, I'm kind of knowledgeable about, and that is Highlander.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't believe nobody else has brought up Highlander. That is, it's upsetting. And, and I would say, me and the rest of your guests need to meet in a pit, but not any longer.
Well, maybe it's the motto of there can be only one person to discuss Highlander, and you are it, sir.
Yeah, that's what's up. And okay, I'm about to jump in on the Highlander thing like way too hard, way too fast, because.
All right. Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
Let's take a walk into the pool and tell everybody how you got into Highlander.
All right. So I got into Highlander because my pops let me watch it way too early in my lifespan. I was like 5, and I was watching people get beheaded. And then after that, me and my pops would like play with broomsticks, and try to behead each other, as fathers and sons do. He never once let me win.
Was it the TV series or the movies that you got into first?
So I got into the TV series first, and then and then I got into the movie because there's only one. There's rumors that there might have been more of them, but anybody who spreads that awful lie is sadly mistaken. I mean, that's part of what you got to love about the fandom is just the collective agreement to have this delusion that there's only one movie. That's really what there can only be one of. There can only be one Highlander movie, because if there were any other ones, it would have been horrible. But luckily, there's only one.
What was it about the TV series that hooked you? Besides, number one, watching it with your dad, and then running around and cutting people's heads off and stuff like that. Like, what drew you to it? Like, what was it about it?
I mean, as a kid, it was just you were promised a sword fight every episode, which you can't ask for more than that. It's just like no matter what. As a kid, all you got to do is endure the boring stuff, and then people are gonna fight. Like, I still remember, like, at that point of my life, all I cared about was fighting because I didn't have the capacity to truly understand story and stuff. So like Hook was only good for like 3 scenes for me when I was a kid. And then I was like, this is a TV show that has the best parts of Hook in it every episode. So yeah, I'm down. It was either that or Night Court. There were no sword fights in Night Court.
That's in the extended edition of Night Court.
Oh, if only. I truly believe any and all TV shows could be improved with sword fighting.
You know, I could see it.
Think about it. Think about if, like, in the middle of The View, for no reason, Whoopi Goldberg ripped out a claymore. It's on.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind that at all.
But yeah, what got me into it is just the sword fights, and you know, nothing really made sense. So like one moment, you know, he's fighting on a subway train, and then the next he's fighting like on the Titanic. It was a show where anything goes, and it was great.
Now, I assume, you know, you've gone back to watch it since you're viewing it as a kid, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's on Amazon right now, so I'm definitely still watching it to this day.
Okay, that's really good. Is it on like people that have Prime can watch it?
Oh
like,
yeah, if you got Prime,
kind of
if you got Prime, you can be watching all 6 seasons of Highlander right now, and you should be.
I'll have to go back. I haven't seen it since my college years,
Oh my
and
God.
it's like I remember, like, it's one of those shows where you think back and it's like, I know that there's good seasons, and I know that there weren't some good seasons. And
Yeah,
it's like,
season 6 was a clusterfuck. I'm going. Oh, so first off, can we cuss here?
you're good.
Okay, season 6 was a clusterfuck, but you know what? It was a fun one. It was like the end of the road. They didn't stick the landing, but they didn't stick it in the best way possible. It's like none of that, like, you know, landing and then stumbling a little bit. They fell directly on their face, and I loved it.
I only remember, like, because it's been such a long time since I've actually seen it, the only things I remember is like, I know I like the seasons where he's living on the barge versus like him being with like the boxing, you know, boxing thing.
Yeah, the boxing ones were like season 1 and 2, and the barge, I believe, was around like 3 and 4. Oh man, like there's one scene that I always ask people who watch, or not one scene, but one episode that I always ask people who watch Highlander, like, what did you think of this movie? Because I'll probably be able to tell if we'll be best friends or if we'll just be friends. Which is, what do you think about the dark quickening and Duncan taking out Richie?
You know, I don't have a problem with
spoiler alerts.
Go ahead. No, there's no spoiler alerts here because it's old and it's okay.
Okay, cool.
I don't mind Richie at all. Like he's good. You know where he went. Thank you.
Okay, I loved him getting taken out by Duncan because I hated Richie the entire time. And that's kind of what I mean by, like, the show fell on its face in the best way possible, because you spend 5 seasons hating this kid, going, I wish Duncan would just take his head off so he would be one less one that Duncan had to be concerned about. And then they finally do it. It's just like, I didn't think that happened, but here we are.
Oh my goodness. I know that one of the things that, you know, again, growing up in like the late 90s or early 2000s when Highlander was like on TV, it's like that inspired so many people that I knew with, I got to get the trench coat, I got to get the katana and have it in the house. And it's like I'd give them looks sometimes, be like, okay, like I understand, like I feel like that way too, but I can't wear the trench coat and be looking like Adrian Paul.
Well, first off, nobody can look like Adrian Paul. That man is gorgeous and ridiculous. But that is another thing about Highlander that I love, which is you've got these guys walking around with trench coats. And, like, some you can kind of understand how they hide the sword, sure. But then you got these other dudes that are in like leather jackets, and then they just pull out a full-on broadsword, and you're like, there's no fucking way. There's just no way.
one of my, because we used to play like D&D back in the day, while that was like airing, and one of my friends was like, "Oh yeah, he's got like a butt of holding."
They had to. They had to have. There's there's just no way. Oh god. I mean Highlander had so many good side characters too. Like you had Mythos, you had Raven who got her own spinoff that was just the worst. It was so bad. I mean, and I tried to like it. I really truly did, but it was awful. That's when I first discovered that some characters are great in doses. So I have Highlander to thank for that.
Yeah, that is a great learning experience. Is like there's a book series that I've read, and another friend of mine has read it, and there's a character in it, and it's like the character's great when the character shows up, and it's like, oh, there's the character, a quick discussion, character goes away. Character got like its own book for like a fourth book, and it's like, no, it's too much. It's too much of
Right,
you. Like,
it's too much. Like sometimes you just need a little bit of a sprinkle of a character. They don't need to be the whole dish.
exactly. Now, what did you think of when you saw the original Highlander? Because there's such a disconnect between the Highlander movie and then the Highlander series. Like it's like almost two totally different properties, which of course it
Right.
is. But
I flipping loved it. Like it was so good. It was like even as a kid, even though they're like what maybe I'd say four sword. Like okay, so you got the random immortal that Connor kills at the beginning. Then you've got the Spaniard versus Kurgan. Then you got Connor versus Kurgan, and then I think there's one in between there. There's like at most four sword fights in it. Even as a kid, I was just like the stuff in between the sword fights is still dope. Oh, there's so much that's amazing about this fandom, this franchise, that I think that the franchise itself doesn't really pick up on, and that's why it's kind of sucked for a little bit. Which is like Highlander is the master of setting up shit and not explaining it, and it works. Don't fight on holy ground. Why? Don't ask questions. Cool. There can be only one. Says who? Stop talking. All right, I'm down. Like it's when you try to explain this shit that things go wrong. Like the movie explained just enough to be awesome, and then any more than that, it doesn't work. Like the whole thing is there can be only one. That does not set you up for a sequel. Like somebody had terrible foresight. But yeah, I completely spaced on the question that you asked. I am so passionate about like who wrote this. It was just like, oh, we're gonna get definitely like 3 or 4 more out of this. There can be only one. That's it. And when you have the last fight in the first movie, that's it. That's the franchise. Unless you start the game anew and just explain that it's starting again and leave it at that. Don't give me fucking aliens. But of course that never happened because there's no goddamn second movie. But I'm just see, there's a whole rant that I'm keeping inside. It's just so fucking frustrating. And then they, oh, okay, you know what? Sorry, this is happening.
just do it.
This is happening. Then they come out with more movies that have flashes of awesome. Like Connor deciding to get back in the game and that being what restarts the game. I'm down with that. Them needing to like do the fusion dance by having Duncan kill Connor so that they could beat a wizard immortal all of a sudden, that doesn't make sense. Like there's just moments of awesome in this series that just don't work. Okay, I'm it's all out. It's all we're good now.
Well, I got a question for you, because the Highlander is one of those properties that you know, we're looking back on it almost like 20 years removed from it at this point, maybe a little bit
Yeah.
longer. And I feel like it's one of those franchises that is ripe for a revisioning, a reboot, a like throw it on Netflix, put it on HBO or Amazon Prime or something. And it feels like it's ready to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to use this term because it sounds so hokey, but it's kind of true. We are in the golden age of television, where television is telling far better stories than movies at this point. And so now would be a perfect time for the right writer and in the right vision. Like, I want one showrunner, just one dude who took his time, researched the material to bring it back and not explain shit, but kind of just show shit a little bit. And what I mean by that is I always wanted to see what would happen if some of the rules were broken. I don't want to know why they're the rules. I just want to see the consequences. I want to see somebody get their head cut off on holy ground. Let's get weird. Let's see what happens. There's another rule, that only one immortal to a fight. So it's 1-on-1.
Right.
What happens if somebody's like, fuck that? What happens if a mortal cuts off an immortal's head? Where does the quickening go? Is there a quickening? Like, does the mortal become an immortal? Like, these are the things that I think could be used to tell amazing stories. And I want the right person to get their hands on it. There's so much there for storytelling. Like the Watchers. The Watchers are fucking awesome. They're this organization that just knows that the game exists and has been keeping track of it. They're like ancient Templar bookies. And I'm here for it. I mean, and not to mention that there's Watchers in a bunch of other series. So like, I mean, it crossover maybe like Buffy the Highlander crossover. No, but it would be cool, but it'll never happen. But dare to dream.
Dare to dream. Hopefully we get something, because it'd be nice. I know that Adrian Paul's making the rounds on before the coronavirus came about. He's making the rounds on a sword fighting like demonstration thing that was happening, where you'd go and learn all about different kinds of stage sword fighting and regular sword fighting, and
that would be so
photo op.
Yeah, I mean, and if you do a rebooted Highlander, I don't know that reboot is the way that I don't want a hard reboot. I would like a soft reboot, where Duncan gets taken out. Like, Duncan doesn't get to be the one, and the Clan MacLeod just gets wiped out. Like, let's start anew. That's probably my hottest Highlander take that I've had all day, which is doing away with the Clan MacLeod. But I mean, could you imagine the story of a Black Immortal? That would be so dope. Like, you're this dude that can't die. You've got to deal with the game, and you got to deal with the real world. Like, I want it. Or let's follow a woman that's not Raven, because that was awful, and I don't want that anymore. Or we could have a Highlander series where we don't follow one immortal, but we spend a few episodes with a few immortals that don't know each other, and eventually there can be only one. So it's like a kind of Game of Thrones type vibe. Like, there's just so much you could do with it. Why is no one doing this? Why am I not a billionaire? I would just use it to fund these dreams, these dream ideas that I have for these shows that could be doing more awesome shit, but they're not.
And not only that, and we're going on the Highlander. This is going to turn into just Highlander podcast, but the what's happening now with the shows on like Netflix, HBO, where it's like that you're going to get 3 seasons, and that's pretty much it. Like, you got all the room in the world to figure out where you want to go and how to end it, and be like, okay, we're set and we're good and we got our stories, and you don't have to be like, oh dang, we got renewed for like another season. No,
Like,
you got it tight.
get
Let's
in,
do
get
it
out.
a quick tight show, be done, and then be like, okay, you know what? We'll talk about spin-off later
Yeah,
or something.
pull
Or
a Good Place. Good Place knew exactly where they wanted to go from beginning to end, and then they dipped, and it was perfect. Just like, tell your story, tell it well, get your fans, and then leave them wanting more. Don't be the show that lingers to death, Dexter. Like, don't do that. Sorry.
now, you know, here we are talking about like rebooting a show, and the next fandom that we're going to talk about, I assume, because I don't want to presume or whatever, but I'm assuming you're going to talk about the new version that's on Netflix, which is Lost in Space.
Yes. I have just recently started watching the new Lost in Space, and it's ridiculously awesome in the best way possible. I was first exposed to Lost in Space as a brand with the movie that came out like in the early 2000s or something. That had
like the late 90s or early 2000s.
that had Joey from Friends, I think, in it or something, and it was not good. it was not, and I never really understood like why are people fans of Lost in Space. It just seemed hokey. I tried to watch the old TV show for a little bit, and it didn't hit with me. But this Lost in Space, I think it does what a good reboot is supposed to do, which is not exactly retelling the stories of the previous iterations, but bringing forth the essence of it. Like, I give a crap about the Robinson family. Like, I want them to be okay. And I see the part that each family member plays. And they also pull the trick that's very hard to do with me, which is I hated I hated the daughter. God, I'm forgetting her name. Give me just a second. I'm having a brain fart. Let's see. I'm trying to remember her name. It's the one that
pull it up right.
Yeah, it's the one that fell in the hole, like in the first episode.
Right. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm pulling it up now because I'd hate to get it wrong.
Yeah, me too. I'm also pulling it. It's
there's Judy
It's
Robinson.
It's Judy Robinson. I hated Judy, like, from the get. I was just like, nobody told her to go down there. They had a plan, and she's fucking it up. And her whole thing was like being like angsty and I did not like her. But they turned her around very slowly for me in such a way that she quickly is starting to become one of my favorite characters. And one of the characters that I started, that I attached myself to early, Will. I've fallen out of love with Will. So I just love how the characters aren't staying static, where like my opinions of the family are changing as the family grows and continues to deal with things. I mean, that's usually when I see a character, the way I feel about them at the start is generally how it rocks until the end of the show. But there's life to these characters, and they actually grow on you or repel you after a while.
Now, have you finished the second season, just out of curiosity?
I am in the middle of the second season, so there is a story to that. So I was binging Lost in Space pretty hard, and then Lock and Key came out. So Lock and Key came out, and then I'm like, okay, I've got to watch all of this now. And then something else came out, and then something else came out, and then it just kept happening. And then I look back and I'm like, oh right, there's still Lost in Space for us to get it for me to finish. I think I only have like 2 episodes left.
Yeah, we watched the second to last one today as we're recording this. We've just got the one more left, and then we saw that the 3rd season's coming next year. The 3rd and final season, I should say.
What is the final? Why? I hate when I find out that shows are ending. I'm sorry. I have many tipper.
It is okay. I'm sorry to crush you right there. I'm sorry to crush your Lost in Spaceness.
They don't need to do that. They can keep it going. Honestly, I'm not like I know I put Lost in Space as the fandom, but really it's Maureen Robinson that I stand. Like she is the GOAT. Like she's not wrong ever. Like just the show should just be called "Shut the fuck up and listen to Maureen, y'all." Like, she is clear. She is like one of my favorite characters, mainly because she's right. She knows she's right, and in the times that things go wrong, I feel like it's her going, you know what? I'm gonna let y'all think you know what you're doing. Now we're lost in space. Y'all fucked up so hard. You gave us the title of the show. Thank you. Now, if you would just please move out the way and let me fix shit. Like, I really don't know who I would rather be in a kerfuffle with, her or the Doctor. Like, really, it's just she's never wrong. Oh my god. Okay, so yeah, I'm gushing over Maureen Robinson, but look, her and the robot are clutch. If you just leave them alone, then everything will be fine. It's oh god. And her husband is he's sweet. I love him to death. But he's the dumbest person. Like he knows it. And everybody knows it. And everybody's like, maybe stop making decisions. He's like, yeah, I probably should make decisions. And then like later in the episode, it's like, here I go making decisions again. Like, no, listen to your wife and sit the fuck down, please. Thank you.
I know. One of my favorite characters now that we're almost finished with the 2nd season is I love Don West, and I have to say I love Don West, but I also love that they still keep the chicken around.
That chicken is great. And I love Don too. He is clutch. You know, he is a much better Han Solo type character than the guy they just got to play Han Solo in the Han Solo prequel. If this dude was Han Solo, I would much. He's got the scoundrel thing down pat. Like he will fuck things up, but you can't help but be like, oh, Dom. Like, oh, you made us think you were dead because you hung on a ship to get evidence that ended up not fucking mattering. Thanks, but you know we love you anyway, Dom. You and that chicken. Which, I mean, honestly, it's a drain on resources, but you know what? That's cool. It's Dom. You got to give him what he wants. I will tell you this, though. Holy shit. Do they have the best villain of all time? What's Dr. Oh, my God.
Dr. Smith.
Dr. Smith. I have never wanted to punch someone in the face as hard as I want to punch Dr. Smith. She's the best villain. Like I put her up there with Cersei. Like she is because you kind of can't hate her. Like you kind of get where she comes from just enough to be like, oh, it's not so bad. And then she fucks you, and you're like, what the fuck was I thinking 5 minutes ago? I hate you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's got that. Like it's not something where it's not like that. It's that intangible thing where she just worms her way in, and then it's like she's twisting the knife, but it's like you're actually twisting your own knife because you let her get that close.
Her running the long con on Will to get Robot was a thing of beauty. Like it really was the finessing of a lifetime. Because I was just like, there's no way. Like, how is she gonna get the robot? There's no way. Like, the robot rocks with Will rocks with the robot, and she might be able to convince Will to make the robot do some questionable stuff, but she's never gonna like full on get the robot. And she was just like, hold my beer, and I'm like, well, there we go. Oh god, when he sent the robot over the cliff, I was just like, oh shit, she did it. Like she's gonna fix that motherfucker, and that's it. That's game over. And it would have been if it weren't for Maureen motherfucking Robinson, the goddamn most gangster. I cannot tell you how much I love it. She's like, oh, you got a robot? Well, I control the fucking ship, and I will kill us all. Like, what do you want to do about it? Baller. Like, that was a moment that literally got me out of my couch, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not even gonna say I wish she would marry me, because honestly, I don't deserve her. And you know what? Neither do you, Mr. Robinson. She needs to find herself a better partner. Maureen Robinson for president 2020. She'll solve Corona in a second. Oh, I love her so much, and that was so dumb. Oh, but yeah, so Lost in Space has a character that I love more than I love most characters, and it also has a character that I hate more than I hate most people, like fictional or real. Like, if I ever ran into Parker Posey, the nice lady that plays Dr. Smith, I would probably be like, you did a wonderful job, get the fuck out of my face. Like, I don't trust you. I'm not gonna give you a pen for an autograph. What are you gonna use my DNA for? Like, just and I recognize the actress from something else, and I can't remember what it is for her life of me. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. What was the draw for you for Lost in Space? Like, because I remember when Netflix was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have Lost in Space. I was like, why? Because I remember, like, I remember the original and I remember the movie, and it's like, why? But I got into it. It's a show that we watch with the kids, which is why we're so slow on finishing it up. But.
So, Twitter member, blah, 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 somebody that I follow on Twitter that has like awesome taste in everything known, was just talking about Lost in Space and Expanse, and I tried to watch Expanse, and it's hard. Like, one day I will sit down and I'll be able to digest that show, but today and all my yesterdays will not be that day. So I was like, all right, he talks about Lost in Space. Let me give this a try, and it was good. Like, the first episode was good, and I'm like, okay, there's no way they can keep this up. And then the second episode was also good. I kind of was spite watching it. I was just like, okay, when are they gonna stumble? And they didn't. Like, there are some shows you watch because you're excited about it. There are some shows that you watch because it's on TV, and there are some shows that you watch to see them fail. And this was one of those shows that I was just like, I refuse to believe this could be good after having Joey fly a spaceship. Like, you can't go from having Joey from Friends fly a spaceship to being a good brand. And you know what? I was wrong. Shows how very close-minded I am. You cast a cast member of Friends as a scientist or a pilot, you're done.
That's kind of like when they cast Denise Richards in a scientist role in a James Bond movie. Yeah. It's like, yeah. Yeah, there's certain actors that you just can't take seriously in certain roles.
Well, it's partially the actor thing, and then also, like, I don't know if this is like a real thing, but I have a lot of friends that like Friends, and I tried to watch that show, and I also hate it. But I love How I Met Your Mother, and there are some Friends fans that hate How I Met Your Mother, and there are some How I Met Your Mother fans that I know that hate Friends. So it's kind of like a Blood versus Crip type situation. And we on the How I Met Your Mother side don't fuck with Friends. Like, you know, you can keep your Joey. I have Barney Stinson all day, every day. You know, you can keep Ross or whatever the fuck his name is. I'll take Ted Mosby hands down. What about Phoebe and what's her? I don't even know the other one. What's his name? Chandler? Were they in a relationship? I don't know, but they can't fuck with Lily and Marshall. So let's go.
Oh my goodness.
So if that's not a war, can we start that? Like, can we make that a thing? If you are listening to this and you like How I Met Your Mother, just go to a message board and talk shit about Friends. Just do it for me. I want to start a flame war.
Oh my goodness. So we got Highlander and Lost in Space.
Yep.
And there's something that you said, that you need it to have more respect. You need more people to be like, hey, take a look at this fandom. And it's a video game franchise. I'm familiar with it only from watching people play it.
Right.
And that's the Devil May Cry series.
Yes, Devil May Cry. All right, here we go. So Devil May Cry was one of the first games that I picked up for PlayStation 2. Like, I found one of my best friends through this game. This game is the shit. It is about well, first off, the story is a bit confusing, and I should explain. Devil May Cry 1 is the third or fourth in the chronology of the series. And Devil May Cry is kind of legendary for having having quality fluctuations. So you've got Devil May Cry 1, which is the GOAT, the greatest of all time video game of all time ever. I don't care what anybody says. Then you have Devil May Cry 2, which is subpar. Then you have Devil May Cry 3, which is GOAT times 2. Like, you thought Devil May Cry 1 was the GOAT, but here we are with Devil May Cry 3, which is even more GOAT-like. Then you've got Devil May Cry 4, which is just under Devil May Cry 3. It's okay. And then, for some reason, Capcom decided that they wanted to revamp the series. So they rebooted it with a game called DMC. And this is where the fandom splits a little bit. Because you've got some people who are like, DMC was a good game. It's not the Devil May Cry that we know and love, but it's still a good game, and maybe we, the fans, went a little too hard at the people that created it. Those are the reasonable Devil May Cry fans. If you have not figured this out from talking to me, I'm just going to spell it out for you. I am not a reasonable person. So I respect these people as artists and crafts, and I appreciate the hard work and effort that they put into Devil May Cry, and I wish them the best in their careers and their life. That being said, fuck that game to death. I hate Devil May Cry. I hate DMC with the furious passion. It is an abomination. I want to struck. It's like Highlander. It's like a Highlander sequel. It never happened. So then we have Devil May Cry 5, which is return to form. So now that I explained all that, let me kind of get into why this is a great game. One, it's exciting to play, and two, the story, if you take the college course necessary to understand it, is actually pretty good. It's about Dante, who is a devil hunter. He goes around hunting demons, and And his father was Sparta, the legendary Dark Knight Sparta, who was like the general of hell, but then decided that the humans were too easy to beat. So he was just like, I'm gonna switch sides for the fuck of it. So he switches sides, beats all of hell, and then it's just like, okay, that was fun. And he locks his power up and all of hell on the other side of the gateway. And every fucking game since then is just somebody trying to open up that gateway to get that power and bring hell back on Earth. The reason I love Devil May Cry is because it has one of the greatest villains of all time, which is Dante's twin brother Virgil, who is just the cool. He's the coolest cat of all time. He's Dante's twin brother, and where Dante is like this loud, rambunctious, like I'm gonna do a cartwheel, triple backflip, and then shoot you in the head because isn't that cool? Virgil just like, I'm gonna stab you in the most efficient way possible and then go get some cheese. Like, I love that. And the interactions between them are so fucking cool because Devil May Cry 3, remember I told you need a college course to understand this story. Devil May Cry 3 is where the series starts. And it's Dante doesn't really understand all of his powers yet. Virgil does. And Virgil is trying to use Dante to unlock the gateway of hell to get all the power. And in order to do that, he has to use an amulet that Sparta gave Dante. So throughout the whole game of Devil May Cry 3, Virgil clearly is the better fighter in person and all that. And he's just like taunting his brother and fucking with him in order to like get him to activate his power so that he can use it. And I'm explaining this horribly, but I promise you that it's fucking awesome. like it's just this brotherly feud that plays out throughout this wonderful fucking game, and the interactions between them are just so fucking good and heartfelt. Because you got this guy that's just obnoxious for the sake of being obnoxious, but when he faces his brother, he's got to like get serious, and it's a side of Dante that we did not really get to see very much of. Like the Dante that you get in Devil May Cry 1 and 2 is still loud and obnoxious, but he's like more mature and more quiet. So Devil May Cry 3, you got to see him young, rambunctious, and like at maximum doing the most. And then you get to see how he becomes the more mature version of that by getting his ass consistently kicked by his brother. And they with the latest Devil May Cry, like they bring Virgil back, and it's fucking amazing. But again, they do some things that are questionable. But we'll leave it at that because that's a whole nother rant. There's Devil May Cry 4 introduced a third character, Nero, and they never really told us where this guy came from. He looks just like Dante and Virgil. He fights just like Dante and Virgil, and his special moves look just like Virgil. And so, we're like, okay, they're gonna tell us where this kid came from. You beat Devil May Cry 4. They don't tell you shit. And they were like, okay, we can't wait for Devil May Cry 5 because they're going to tell us who the fuck this kid is and why does he look exactly like Dante and Virgil? So we're expecting, the announcement for Devil May Cry 5, and that's when they go, hey, we changed our mind. We're going to do DMC and turn him into this emo punk kid that gives the camera the bird and looks like fucking Billy Idol. I'm about to get into some real hatred here. I always tell people, I used to be a shit. Just a really I used to be a shit on forums. Where it's just I would never call anybody out, but I'd be like, this game is it's the worst thing that ever happened. I was that guy. I'm trying not to be that guy anymore, but that's the one game. That's the one that still brings it out. Because why? You had a good storyline, kinda. It's as long as you took your college credit course, and you had a great fighting system, and you just changed it for no fucking reason. There's a million things you could have done with the story. Why that? Like, we still don't know what happened to Sparta. Is he still alive? Is he dead? No one knows. And no one has given us an answer to it. And that's all we've asked for as a fandom collectively is like, can we get one? And then Capcom like slips out a rumor like a bajillion years ago where they're like, hey, we're gonna come out with Devil May Cry, Dance of Sparta on the PSP, where you get to play as Sparta when he decides to just flip sides, and then maybe you'll find out what happened to him. And I'm like, yes, take my money, please. And then it never happens. I just want to give Capcom my money. Why won't they take my money? I know podcasts are supposed to be a conversation. I am so sorry, but this I should have started off.
It is okay.
Oh, this is gonna be documented forever. I'm gonna go into a job like, are you that guy that cried about Devil May Cry for 15 minutes? Yes, I am, and I meant every fucking word of it. Why won't Capcom take my money? I told them how to get all of it. If they said we're coming out with Devil May Cry 6 and told you everything about Sparta and it's $600, I would go on Twitter, I would bitch about it for 50 posts straight, and then I would give them $600. Oh God. Yeah.
My mouth is hurting. So much laughter.
Okay, well that's good. Because I've got tears on my face. I'm not even kidding. I'm legitimately hurt. The only ones that have it worse than us are the Mega Man fans, really. I feel so bad for them. It's like watching somebody in a shitty relationship. Like, just leave. They're like, we'll get Mega Man Legends again soon. Like, no, you won't. Okay, I'm sorry. You can go.
So, like I said at the beginning of the episode, how I had stumbled across you, or vice versa, is through tabletop role playing on the wonderful Twitter community that it is at times.
Yep.
How did you first get into tabletop role playing?
Okay, so I got into Dungeons and Dragons way back when I was like 14. I went to my buddy Izzy's house. You know, they were like, you know, we're all in the basement, you know, you should come down and hang out with us. So I go to this musty basement with like way too much stuff and a couch that barely fits. And there's the table and it has figures on it. And I was just like, okay, so what's this about? The second they explained it, I was all aboard, and that was kind of it. You know, I've been playing ever since. You know, I just D&D has been one of those consistent things in my life that, you know, when things get a little too rough or a little murky, you can kind of always turn to it to not be yourself for a good 3 to 4 hours at a time, which is always great. You know, and I've made a lot of kick-ass friends from doing it. You know, I've strengthened the bonds between me and a bunch of my friends with it. And you know, and I've seen a lot of growth from people that I know from doing it. So it's one of the hobbies of my life that I truly, it's one of the few hobbies in my life that actually is like 100% positive. Except for my dice habit. That's pretty negative. Jesus.
You know, before I found Twitter, like the Twitter tabletop community, I didn't really know much about dice. Like, you know, I'd buy it at the comic store, the gaming store, and be like, okay, cool, I got, you know, my dice. Or I'd stumble across those like really pretty, like heavy metal dice, like the real ones, like the ones made out of like real heavy metal. And I was like, okay, I like those. Had no clue about people making their own dice,
Yeah.
people designing dice, like no idea until I got involved in Twitter, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like there are custom dice
Yeah,
makers?
I only found out about metal dice like maybe 3 years ago. Like I had a sack full of dice, and then that was kind of it. If I would see like the basic chess X set, my local gaming shop, I'd buy them, but I never really like you looked into them. Then one day, I see dice in a cardboard box, and I'm like, well, that's weird. They're usually in the little plastic thingamajig. So I pick it up, and it's like the
Hmm.
box is heavy, and I'm like, the shit is this? And he goes, yeah, these metal die like dwarven set or whatever. I look at the price, and I'm like, there's no way anybody's gonna pay, $50 for dice. I went to a website, I think about 2 weeks ago, and somebody is selling a set of dice for $200. And I'm just like, you know what? I was wrong about everything I thought. The dice game has gotten nutty. And I'll stick to my chess X sets. Thank you. I do know some dice makers, but I can't go as hard as a lot of my friends do. I
Hmm.
just I just whew.
Now, after all this time since you started with Dungeons and Dragons, are you still playing Dungeons and Dragons? Have you branched out to other games, or is it just D&D for you?
So I have branched out mainly on accident. Somebody will be like, "Hey, I want to play a game with you," and I'm like, "Cool." And they're like, "You want to play?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And then I'll find out the week of like, "Okay, so this is going to be a Pathfinder game," and I'm like, "Well, I guess I'm learning Pathfinder." But the more I've been playing these other systems again, kind of like stumbling my way through them. Like I'm in a Lancer game on Sundays on Chromatic Chimera's channel, and I'm just now starting to get my head around the system. It's like giant mechs, and I'm like, okay, this makes sense, and it feels like what they're trying to represent. And I I think that I'm starting to enjoy other systems just because I know what it feels like to be a cleric. I know what it feels like to be a paladin. I know what it feels like to be a barbarian. I don't know what it feels like to pilot a big fucking mech. So learning this system, I'm like, I'm down with it. And I'm actually going to be playing a Call of Cthulhu game tomorrow on Scraticus' channel, and so I'm gonna learn that tonight. and, and now I'll know what it feels like to be tormented by the old ones in Cthulhu.
Nice, nice. For primarily since you have stuck to like the fantasy genre with D&D and whatnot, do you have a favorite like class that you gravitate towards?
Yes, yes, I do. I've got. See, I don't have one favorite. I've got three. I can't. I don't know that I could choose one out of the three. Paladin, monk, and bard. I feel like those are my three babies. Right now, I'm playing a monk in Joshua Barbeau's game, The Company of a Grey Wolf, and I love monks because they feel broken, but they're not. Like there's I'd say once you hit around like level 10, 11 with a monk, there aren't problems any longer. And what I mean by that is just like, I'm going to, make your monk fall off a cliff. Well, that's cool. Slow fall. I'll be all right. Or yeah, I'm going to poison your monk. Well, no, you're not because I'm a monk. At one point, monks get the ability to just pop a key point and just take a save again. Like and they get proficiency in all saves. It gets ridiculous, and I love them so much. And their subclasses are so fucking good. Way of the Long Death Monk, it's the only class in the game where they can just decide not to die. they have an ability that says once you die, pop a key point, and then just kidding. Like like, and it's not an action or anything, so you can just do it. So your DM's just like, you know what, fuck this party. I'm gonna bring a dragon down, kill everybody with a breath weapon, and then the dragon flies away. Well, I pop a key point, and I just kind of look at my damn party members like, ugh, that was awkward. Like, I love monks so much because they're assholes and they're broken, and I love them so much. And then paladins. The rant on paladins is going to be much smaller. I just like hitting things way too hard. Like, the fact that you can smite after you know the results of an attack, like, I'm going to swing my sword to hit this thing. I rolled a 20. Well, guess what? Smite. Like, if you are a paladin and you roll a 20 and you don't put your smite into it, I don't know what's wrong with you. We can never be friends. You don't get to sit with us. Sometimes when I play my paladin, if I roll a 20 on anything, I just say smite out of habit. Like, the barbarian is down. Are you gonna stabilize him? Sure, I'll stabilize him with the medicine check because I don't like him enough to lay on hands. I roll a 20 on it, I just yell smite. Like, I just can't help myself, because if you are a paladin, that's your whole deal. Hurt people with God. It's great. And then bards, like, I don't even think I really need to explain why it's just fun to play a bard. Okay, side rant. This whole deal about bards seducing everything, like, I get why the joke is funny, but it's played out at this point. Like, bards can do so much more than just seducing people. Like, especially if you pick the right subclass. Like, it's a severely underpowered class, if you ask me, but just the flavor of the College of Whispers is one of my favorite things ever. It's just you get to play the guy from I Know What You Did Last Summer. That's the best thing in the world. You just walk up to somebody and you're just like, I know that thing you did, and I can't believe you would do that. And they're like, oh, and then that's it. That's the whole class. It's great. You know what? I actually really want to now play a bard of the College of Whispers that just has a hook for a hand and a raincoat. Just follows Jennifer Love Hewitt around and fucks with her. Like, but yeah, I love bards because they can do everything. I love paladins because they can hit insanely hard, and I love monks because they're broken but not really.
What is one game system that you know of, but that you haven't really been able to play yet? Like, that you it's on your list of, I want to play this game system.
Blades of Darkness. I want to play that one. I'm probably fucking the name up, and this one I know I'm about to fuck the name up of Highlander. Zoander.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the two that I'm just like, I see a bunch of people playing it, like, and I wanna, but it's always something with scheduling. Like, the biggest monster in the TTRPG community is the calendar. Like, it's just it never works, especially because, like, I've got a lot of really amazing friends across the pond. And so it's just like, fuck, like, by the time I'm out of work, you should have been in bed for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just the calendar always kind of screws with me. But Those are the two games that I definitely want to get into. And you know what, Vampire the Masquerade, I'd like to give that a spin. I not maybe not right now because I've got my one grimdark edgelord character, and I don't have the personality to have two of those at once. But yeah, I would love to have them. You know what? Let me take that back. You don't have to be a Grimlord Edgehead or whatever I said to play Vampire the Masquerade, but I would very much love to jump into that system. It looks fun, and D10s need more love. So yeah.
I feel you. I used to play Vampire back in the day. Haven't played the new one at all. I have the book, but it's always timing. There's never enough time in the day or night or weekends.
I mean, especially because they have a Chicago setting now, from what I understand. They have something by Chicago by midnight.
Chicago by night.
Yeah. And I'm like, I would very much like to get into that. I want to see how well they represent the city. I mean, you've got your different vampire factions. You're also then going to need your White Sox faction and your Cubs faction, and then you're going to need the few Packer vampires that are in Chicago for some goddamn reason. They need to go back to Wisconsin. FTP. I had to get it in there. Sorry. Any show I do ever, I need to slip in one fuck the Packers. It's kind of in my bylaws.
For people that have listened to this podcast episode and they want more of this, they want more Noir Enigma, where can people go to find you, to follow you, and get more of this?
You can find me on all the socials under Noir Enigma. You can catch me over on Encounter Roleplay coming up pretty soon. I've got a show called Dr. D&D where we answer your TTRPG community questions in characters. So you will call or you will submit questions as your characters, and I will answer them in character. It's going to be a fun little experimenty show. We'll see how it works. On Wednesdays, you can catch me on Joshua Barbeau's Twitch channel. The Twitch channel is his name. The show is Company of the Grey Wolf. I play a angsty Shatterkai elf who is a monk that is broken, like I said, and works for the Raven Queen. And on Thursdays, you can catch me on Raptor Mama's channel playing a Pathfinder game called The Lost Tales of Lazoya. And on Sundays, I promise we're almost done here with the plugs. On Sundays, you can catch me at Chromatic Chimera, where I play in the Lancer game Heavy Mecha. And that's all of them for now. I'm doing all the things.
Awesome. That is a good thing. So I'll have the links to all of those shows and your socials, so that way if you are listening to this episode and you want to go check it out, you can just do it. Click on the button on the show notes or on the website or Facebook page. And I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to come on and talk with me tonight.
Thank you for having me. This was a great time. I'd love to do it again sometime. You'll get more tears out of me.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.